Hey Rockstars, I'm JB, expert salesperson and master presenter.
I'm the doctor, psychologist, and behavioral expert.
This is the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab podcast.
We're high-performance coaches that help service-based professionals and entrepreneurs take their skills to the next level.
70% of entrepreneurs fail, which is why every week we have real talk with real entrepreneurs to help ensure you are not one of them.
We're also the inventors of the Be Rich mindset,
where we rise to mastery,
inspire greatness,
celebrate knowledge,
and help others along the way.
So join us in the lab.
And now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the lab. I'm JB.
I'm the doctor.
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab, where we try to have real conversations with real professionals every single week, even if it just happens to be the doc and myself. I'm sure you haven't had a chance yet to like, subscribe, follow, or share, but hopefully by the end of the episode, you feel so inclined. And if you happen to be a previous listener or viewer, welcome back. And I'm certain you've done all those things. I know you have, but on the very minor off chance they haven't, Doc, let's get started on that, right?
Click some buttons, all the ones with the thumbs up.
All the buttons. Click all the buttons except the thumbs down button. Don't click that one. You can do that on Doc's private page.
Sure.
Doc, I got to ask, man, I'm curious because this is like this has just been nonstop. My wife even asked me, hey, you know, did you look on Roku yet? Have you seen Top Gun, man? Have you seen the new movie?
Yeah, I mean, in 1986 it came out, right? Something like
that. Do you even watch movies? I don't think
do.
We've ever once talked about movies like directly. You quote them all the time, but all your quotes are from like 30 years ago, from like 1986, funny enough.
I have the need for speed.
Okay, that's...
Although my favorite quote from that one is negative Ghost Rider. Pattern is full. So it's a good way to respond to answers most of the time.
I have yet to see the new one, but I've heard fantastic things. I feel like I want to watch it with my kid, though. I feel like that's something that my kid could get into, but I'm worried it's probably a little too old for him. But who doesn't love fighter pilots and jet planes? I mean, come on.
I mean, I think it's fine. Tom Cruise is still like 20-something, right?
He doesn't seem to age to me. I'm pretty impressed by the guy. I hope I look that good when I'm older.
Must be all the Thetans.
Yeah.
That's what they call them.
The Thetans? Oh, that's Scientology joke, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd go deep on you. I only know that from South Park, actually.
Yeah, that's Carl Sagan, right? Yeah, came up with Scientology. Is he the guy that's...
close.
No, L. Ron Hubbard, right?
There you go.
Not Sagan. I'm sorry. There's a lot of listeners out there that are like, what are you saying? Sagan's a genius. And, Hubbard was interesting. Battlefield Earth. Weird book.
I mean, he just keep writing good books, and we turned one of them to a religion. But
speaking of
religions
books and movies,
off of books off, right? So we're all good. No judgment here.
That's true. Battlefield Earth, better book than movie. That was an awful movie. Awful. Funny, John Travolta is a Scientologist too, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he was okay. Yeah, maybe that's why he was in that movie. I don't know. Anyways, let's not go back. Now we're just going down a rabbit hole. All right, we got a good friend of mine and guest joining. We've got Bkrisman, of Bayfirst National Bank, joining us here in the lab. Brian, welcome to the lab. How are you, man?
How are you? How you doing? Boy, I was in the green room and I wanted to chime in so badly on the Top Gun. And,
tell us about Top Gun, man. Have you seen
it?
I
haven't seen the new one, but whenever people mention Top Gun, right, that is like my go-to karaoke song. At the end of the night when you're drinking and you go up there, all the guys just go in there and start singing it. So it's a great karaoke for the bar scene. But
how is it there's three of us in a room that at this point have still not seen Top Gun? I feel like everybody listening's rolling their eyes at us right now going, you have to be kidding.
Especially since it's been out for like 3 months.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's supposed to be fantastic. I have not heard a single bad thing about this movie from people.
Not a bad thing. Everyone is saying that it is it's excellent and it has the 80s vibe with the cheesy one-liners and the action film that makes completely no sense. But it's like you, I want to what my kids are, 16 and 17, and they've never seen the first one. So I feel like I have to see the first one with them, and then we can all go to see the movie. And
I can appreciate that.
So tell us how else you failed as a parent.
Oh, I have to tell you, The Outsiders. They haven't seen The Outsiders, Pony Boy, and all these other things, and I feel like I'm a bad parent, and I'm surprised my kids can even. Surprised they even have a future at this point.
There's this thing called YouTube now, which we might be on. Small plug. This podcast you are listening to might also actually be on YouTube right this very moment while you're listening. Hint, hint. But when you go over to YouTube, there's this new thing now, which I've fallen in this rabbit hole quite a bit, is they do like music reactions is how it started. Now a lot of people are doing movie reactions. So they're getting people that have never seen it, showing them the movie, and then recording the reaction and having conversation during it. You and your kids have our natural setup for this now. You can introduce them to so many movies, and then they can retire and take care of you.
You know what? I'm ready for that. So I'm going to go right after this podcast. I'm going to go on that and see, because I need something to help me retire. Yeah.
The amazing thing is, I'm pretty sure I could do that with my wife, Dre. She just she never had the movie exposure as a kid. So I feel like half of my relationship has been like once every couple of months being like, okay, we really need to go back to this classic because you're missing out. But it's a sad thing because you get to these classics in some of these movies like 20 or 30 years later, and you can't, it's not the same.
Movies are a very important part of my family, actually, because interesting tidbit, my wife's father won an Academy Award for Apollo 13.
Wow.
Nice.
So he was re-recording Mixer. He won an Academy Award. So movies have been a very big part of my wife, and growing up with, my mother-in-law, father-in-law. They are, they were big movie buffs. My mother-in-law sees every movie, the day it comes out. And every show, she's Netflix knows everyone. So a lot of good stories.
So your wife has gone to see Top Gun without you?
Not the new one, no. Maybe she has. I don't know. She's not telling me though.
All right. So now that we know everything about you except like what you do, Brian.
Sure. I was waiting for that. Because I can go on for hours. So
I was just going to see if we were going to call his father-in-law instead and get him as the guest. That sounds like we missed there.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he has passed on, but I'm sure he would be a great podcast guest. But I will leave that. If he goes down the rabbit hole with the movies, I'll bring my mother-in-law in, and she'll bring the Academy Award for you guys to see.
Oh, that would be
cool. Yeah. So what I do is my title is I am a residential lender that can lend in all 50 states. From residential houses, 1 to 4 families, primary, secondary, investment properties. But really and truly, beyond that is I find people comfort in knowing that they can buy that next house, that vacation property, that investment property, that it will cash flow. They'll be comfortable in buying that home, and really putting people in situations that work for them and their families and their future. We talked about retirement. Is this a good, you have to start now, 20, 21, 24, even it's harder, but you have to start now. And I think a mortgage in a good position can start you on that process to retire or set yourself up for that next goal. And that's what I do. I put people in situations that work for them and their goals via a mortgage.
But it's not what you always did, right? We were talking about this before we even hit record. So
yeah,
walk us back to what you started out as, and then I'm kind of curious how you ended up where you're at.
Sure. It's actually a pretty good story. It starts with a Mercedes-Benz.
Not bad. Okay, go on.
An SL 55. I was a social worker. I graduated
Benz? You're a good social worker.
Yes. Can you say Medicaid fraud? No. No. I graduated a master's degree in social work, and I was working as a social worker in a school as a alternative school. Many of my jobs, and I was playing softball on Sunday mornings in a softball league, and I was walking past. Well, a guy on my team had an SL 55 convertible, and I said, "Man, I'm never going to be able to afford that." And the guy said, "Why?" So I said, "Well, I'm a social worker. That's never in my, that's not in the grand scheme of things." So I became friendly with this guy on my softball team and said, "What do you do? How do you do it? What do you do?" So he told me, and I knew nothing about mortgages. So we went out for drinks on a Wednesday night. After a game, we had a Wednesday night game that week. And we talked, and he goes, "Anybody can do what I do." And I said, "Oh, man, I was terrible at math. I failed math in school. That's why I was a social worker." And we just had a conversation. And that Monday, I went in to meet with them. And then July 7th, actually 2000, I started my career as a mortgage banker. I read a book and to learn about it. And from there, I got one client. And from that one client, it was a $64,000 cash out refinance of a condo. And that one transaction led to about 40 other deals. Set up a mortgage program with a supermarket for their employees. And it just went on from there. So I was working both jobs, and then I left my social work job at the school and did it full time. And I've been pretty successful ever since.
Did you ever really leave being a social worker as a mortgage loan officer? I mean, I feel like it doesn't ever go away.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I apply those techniques of listening to the clients, what their needs are, and listening and hearing what they're saying, and applying those techniques to meeting them where they are. I do a lot of work with credit repair. I take them, and if I could, when we pull a credit report and they have maybe, a 660 credit score, but I can see where they can maybe get to 680 or 700. We give them techniques on how to improve their credit score. Obviously, the better credit score, the better interest rate they get. So I do a lot of work with them on explaining the credit process, and it's never a no, right? It's a not now, but when you do this. And I think that is how the mortgage business should be. Everyone's, wants to close and have great months, but you really have to treat the client, because I'm never going to retire, right? We talk about retirement, retire on one transaction, right? And that's not the goal. The goal is to work on the next transaction. Who are they going to refer me to? How are we going to grow here? How are we going to get you from here? The plan, right? Plan from A to B to C. Because one client is potentially four different transactions, right? You have the purchase, and then maybe a refinance, or they're buying a new house, and then they're going to, possibly buy a second home or a retirement home. So you can follow families and individuals throughout the process. And one client can potentially be 3 to 4 loans. So you treat them right now. If it's an $80,000 loan now, it will be a, $600,000 loan, when they get married, or when they, get better jobs, or they get that next pay raise, and go from there. So,
and I'm a little worried if you're getting somebody into a mortgage where they only owe 60,000 and then they owe 600,000 down the road. That's a weird mortgage.
Well, again,
it's going backwards.
Well, a case in point, right? Again, this is 22 years ago where you can get $100,000 condo. Find one nowadays, and it's in a place you might not want to live in, or not because it's a bad neighborhood, just because it's not close to anything. So the closer you are to some part of culture, and people with good jobs, the more expensive the property is.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's where the demand is. Did you think, man, when you went into this 20 odd years ago, 22 years ago, were you like, okay, here's a way I can make money? But did you really think like, hey, I'm going to be doing this next 20 plus years?
No. No, I met someone. They said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm a mortgage guy right now, but I'm gonna make X amount of dollars. Then I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go to teach. I'm gonna be a teacher."
Interesting.
And I'm like, "Well, I kind of do that now and teach, and don't have to, hit a time clock or deal with kids and deal with the structure of a school day." Because the things I say out of my mouth sometimes are maybe a little off color in terms
Not PC
of
for school.
yeah, no, definitely not. Ma, you don't understand what our teacher said today. Well, it just comes from the heart, and I think that's where the connection is with the clients, right? You speak from the heart. You really try and work through it, and it's not just the clients, right? It's the realtors, it's the title company. Everybody puts faith in me as the originator of the loan to ring their cash registers. And I hold that dear. I really hold that to be important because everyone's a client. The realtors are clients, the title companies are clients, the referral partner was a client, whether it's a financial advisor, CPA, they're all clients. So you really want to, please everyone. Or if you can't do the deal, say, listen, I can't do it. I'm going to try this angle. But if it doesn't work, let's nip this in the bud so they can get someone else for the house.
Right.
Because, there's a cover for every pot, but maybe not now. And, let's get a different guarantor. Let's get a co-signer. Can you get more money? Can you fix your credit? Can we do this? So there's many different tricks and techniques, not tricks, but techniques that you learn over 22 years to make the process work fluently and efficiently.
Okay. I got to ask, because half our listeners are business owners, probably at least, mortgages for the self-employed business owner, major pain in the butt, major pain in the butt. I mean, for you, let alone for them. but I'm sure you work with a lot of business owners. Just kind of any words of wisdom out there for somebody who's self-employed, who's trying to get a mortgage, especially in our current environment. You get more volatility in the interest rate environment than we've seen in 40 years. We're still working through that. Just kind of any advice for people out there right now, man?
I that's a great question. I really feel that I work well with business owners because I'm an expert at reading the tax returns. But if you're a business owner, you obviously work with a CPA and your financial advisor to plan for the future, right? Your 5-year plan in business. But if you're going to buy a home or a second home, let's plan on looking at the tax returns for today or your 2020 returns if you're on extension, and let's see how we can work within that construct to get you that house. But we do have programs for the self-employed business owner to buy that next house while you currently have a home, or how can we go and get you enough down payment to go and get you that residential house? We have at Bayfirst National Bank, we have a very robust SBA division as well that works with the business owners to go and buy an investment property, a business property as well. So there's, things that I work well hand in hand with CPAs and the products to work with business owners, whether they're stated income loans for purchasing, investment property, second homes.
So there's avenues around kind of that friction point, right? With the friction point usually being like most business owners, I don't have a lot of income to actually show on my tax returns. So you've got some alternatives out there for people to be able to take advantage of that don't necessarily rely on the income on the tax return being all that high.
100%. We look at, assets, age, certain restrictions, where are you currently living? How do we go and do that? So there's a lot of programs out there for the business owner because they are really an underserved population, right? The small business owner, they have federal programs, but now they're struggling, to make headway in the, world of Amazon or, Grubhubs of the world where they want to reach more people, but it's costing them more money to do that. Food prices and things of that nature. So how do we go and get them to that next level without hurting their business and their cash flow.
Right.
And, I work well with those people for mortgages, and then work well with, having partners that will look at the business owner and work within having them increase their cash flow.
Makes sense. And, in my experience, underwriters like to have everything fit really nicely into a box.
Mm-hmm.
And it's try getting a small business owner into a box. It just doesn't work all that well normally.
Yes.
And
that's where knowledge of the products and the process comes in. I work hand in hand with my processor, who's excellent at, understanding tax returns. My manager as well, that work hand in hand with. We really are great at tax returns, because that's why they come to me, right? They come to me because the big banks don't want to bother with the tax returns, those hard loans, because they have such a flow of, maybe the easier loans, right? The high net worth or the W-2 borrower, where they're underserved. And that's where I come in to help out those business owners.
You've been doing this a long time, clearly, Brian. If you're watching on YouTube, you know why I'm chuckling. If you're listening on the podcast, you're just gonna have to check us out on YouTube. I'm sorry, Brian. 20 plus years. Have these programs always been around? For the underserved. Do they come and go? Kind of. What's I feel like most people don't know about this stuff. So, What's your experience been with that?
So people say, "Oh my God, the downturn, 2008, 2010, the economy." These programs were very prevalent back then. And then with the institution of, the Dodd-Frank and the quality mortgages, they went away, and it was all full doc loans, 2 years tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, K-1s. And in the last, 24 months, they've come back. We were doing primary homes with, no documented loans came back. That program has since taken a step back, because they were so busy. They've taken a step back, but there's a lot of programs where you can still use, stated income loans, rent rolls. They're called debt service coverage ratio loans. I was doing those, back 15 years ago. But now they have bank statement loans where we can show 12 months, 24 months personal bank statements, 12 months bank statements, and work hand in hand with the accountants to see what their expense ratios are, and we can get them loans that way. So it's not always just tax returns with a self-employed borrower. We can look at their income stream coming in and create a monthly income off of their bank statements. So there's a lot of programs that we have out there that we didn't have, 3-4 years ago. Wall Street has stepped in and has backstopped these programs because the interest rates are higher, but it gets people to where they want to be. And as their tax returns and their business grows and they file better and better tax returns, they can always refinance. So again, you marry your house, you marry your spouse, you don't marry your interest rate. And the interest rates, can fluctuate over time. So if you, talk with your accountant, hey, file more, a better tax return, then we can get in there and the rate will potentially be lower if you can catch it at the right time. And then you can save money.
What you feeling on interest rates right now? Let's attack the elephant in the room, man.
I had a client text me the other day. He said, "Hey, how are interest rates?" And I said, if you're looking for a 4% rate, they're terrible. But if you're looking for a rate, under 6, 5 and change to 6%, they're awesome. So, we're really looking at, yes, inflation. Right. Inflation is a big predictor, right? People look at, the Fed's raising prime rate. Well, that affects, tax return. That affects, credit cards and your borrowing rate. Mortgages are based on the MBS, the bonds, and, really the Fed balance sheet is quite large right now. I think last I heard it was like $9 trillion. Historically, it's been between 2 to 4 trillion. So when these people talk about quantitative easing and quantitative tightening, that's basically the Fed book, the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities or buying bonds to artificially lower the interest rate. Well, now they've done that for, I guess, 10 years now, since it was 2010 when the market crashed, economy crashed. They were doing that to artificially lower rates, and to the help of everyone, right? Everyone took advantage of it. And then they were go talk about quantitative tightening, which is they were starting to sell. And then what happened, right? The 2020 happened, and then they were starting to buy more and more to keep the rates low. The pandemic, and now they're starting to sell, which is bringing more liquidity in the market, which is raising interest rates. So it's not just inflation, but it's also the Fed liquidating their balance sheet. And I'm sure there's many more factors, and economists will tell me, there's more, it's more complex than that, but that's a broad stroke view. So again, if rates, stay in the 5s, low 6s, that'd be, that's great. And that's a really good historically low rate. And, our parents, when they were doing it, it was like 14, 16%. And, again, we've had 3%. So we were spoiled for a long time. We had 3%, and now they've gone up a bit. But with that, hopefully, not for our houses, but for everyone else's house, hopefully they lose a little, they'll come down in price, so people will be able to afford, houses.
Do you feel like people missed it, like the once in a lifetime opportunity? I mean, you've been doing it 20 years. I know what the interest rate environment's done over the last 40, 50 years. 2% loans, 3% loans. You think that time of our lifetime's over? Did people miss out?
People are going to look back on this day and say, why did you buy Amazon and not Sears and Roebuck? That's a great company. I'm not sure. I think for the time being, rates are, going to be, we're not going to see that for a while. But maybe in 2024, 2025, possibly 2026. Again, I'm just looking at this now as an opportunity to, gain, people that will, refinance later on. So it's an opportunity. It's not necessarily, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's an opportunity. As they raise prime rate, right, 4.75, they're talking about, this is going to be in September, so it will probably already happen when this airs, but maybe it will, the prime rate will be 5.75, 6%. But again, if that's 6%, what is your debt on your credit cards? How do you, in this market, create cash flow? Well, you still have a ton of equity in your house. Most houses, if you haven't bought in the last year or two, still have equity. So again, tap into some of that equity. And okay, if your rate is 6% or 5.5%, 5.75%, you're going up from a 3.5% rate. Okay, you're going up 3.5%. But what is your cash flow like? You have a great mortgage payment, but what is your cash flow like in terms of all of your other debt? So let's pay that off. Maybe your minimum payments of $1,000 a month on credit cards can only go up $200 or $300 on a monthly payment on your mortgage. So you're paying off the credit cards, and you're paying your global cash flow is a whole lot less. And I think that's the way you have to look at where rates are. Yes, you missed it, but you can't look at it as saying you missed it, right? If you saw the girl across the bar and, you missed an opportunity with her, but you met a great woman in your wife, your spouse, or your current girlfriend, well, that's okay too. You can't lament on what you didn't do, right? Because you can't live in a rearview mirror. You have to live on what's in front of you.
Yeah. We don't talk about the girl from the bar in my house.
No.
Doc, why do people live in the past, man? That's a pretty common thing, right?
Well, it's pretty comfortable. You already know what happened in the past, so it's easy to relate to. Most things that we get fearful from, or some anxiety, or some, nervousness, is that unknown. So the future is unknown. As Brian's saying, could be this, could be that. We don't really know. But living in the past, you have what that, you know what it is. There's safety there, so you try to relive it, try to go back there, and like remake movies that are really popular at one time. It's a safe bet to remake that movie. It'll be really popular again.
I can't imagine. I don't know what kind of movies would be like that.
Do they remake movies, like recast them? The last one I thought was like Jumanji, and that one didn't work out too well.
Well, they made a second one, so it worked out well enough.
Yeah. Be prepared for the third one too, right? But the funny part about life is, right, is we always say, oh man, what I should have done back then, I would be retired now, or I'd be rich now. But nobody really makes that change today to change the trajectory of their future, right? And I think if we just change a little bit today, the trajectory will be a whole lot better, right? If I make that one call, if I service that one client, if I help this person out, if I refer this one person, it will come back to me. I'm changing my trajectory by working on me today and my business today, because past, right, if I would have done that, my trajectory would have been like this. So, okay, well, you know what? No one's saying that everything else is this way. We just got to go, and your baseline is today, and make that change today for your future.
I'm just dying over here because none of our listeners get to enjoy this, but the doc's just like silently quoting Top Gun on the YouTube in text, and none of you can see this unless you're watching on YouTube. So you're just gonna have to check that on YouTube. But he's got me laughing. I'm having a lot of trouble paying attention to Brian, which is hard to do when you've got me laughing like that, Doc.
You know what I think we have to do? We have to bring the doctor into the conversation here. He's a little bored. Maybe.
There's no time for thinking. If you think, you're dead.
That's it.
Just react, JB. Just react.
What I think you hit on well, Brian, was this idea that, like, hey, we all look backwards. We're like, oh, if only, right? If only I bought Apple when it first came out, or Google when it first came out. But like a lot of people also, like, they don't do the opposite of that. It's like, oh, this is what my life would have been like if I went to jail instead of like made a good decision there. Right. We don't look at our good decisions from the past a lot of times and be like, oh, thank God I didn't make that other not so good decision. Like, this is where my life would be. And we don't think that way. So it's always easy to look back and say, oh, I missed this, or I missed that, and this is what could have been. And the reality is rates are absolute. They are whatever they are today, they are. And it doesn't change that we have needs in our lives to leverage debt sometimes, right, and use interest and lenders, and that's okay. The good news is oftentimes all ships rise with the tide, right? If our listeners have heard that before, it's very common if we see rates rising, well, then that means all the other rates tend to rise with them too. So maybe CD rates will be higher again, like they were back in the 80s. Right. Maybe our bonds will start performing at 9, 10, 11, 12%. And we're already seeing that with I bonds, for example, if you can find them, which are really tough to do right now. So yeah, it's relative.
Listen, with every market, there's opportunity, and you just have to find that opportunity, and it may be something different, right? Everyone was on the Bitcoin craze, right? The crypto craze, and that kind of has since gone away. And now you only have, maybe just the loyalists. And then when it moves again, people find opportunity in everything. So it's opportunity. And it's not get rich quick. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And that's what life's all about, right? So it's, there's opportunity, and I'm looking to help people that have that vision of, not necessarily we'll work on it now and work on it in the future, and we'll get you where everyone wants to be. At the bar at the pickleball court at 65, in Florida,
45.
45. Well, let me rephrase that.
45. Yeah.
Pickleball might be is the new phase, but it's everyone wants to be. We'll use a shuffleboard court, right? Everyone wants to be there, having on the golf course on the 19th hole, at some point in their lives.
So I want to throw this out there, for any of our loan officers listening, our originators, so on and so forth. You've been doing it a long time. Any advice for people in this kind of environment, where we've got, a lot of volatility, a lot of questions, seen a lot of layoffs, right?
Sure.
If you're working for a large lender, a lot of layoffs right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's your advice on kind of surviving through this and thriving through this?
That's a great question, because everyone around is always afraid of the collapse or how it was in 2010. But those new in the business don't know any better. So what you don't know is okay, right? And if you do know, that just gives you more ammunition to grow your business, right? Make the calls, have intention with what you do on a daily basis.
Love that.
Cast a wide net. Right. We're licensed in all 50 states. If you are having, losing deals to, licensed in a state, give me a call. We'll gladly, discuss the loans and how you can get licensed in all 50 states. Where I live in Monmouth County, New Jersey, there's a lot of loan officers, right? It's a densely populated, state with mortgage originators. So you cast a wide net, right? Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. So cast a wide net. Do things differently than other people are doing them, right? You have to be creative. So if it's not realtors, who else are you going to where else can you go for purchase transactions or refinance transactions? People are still refinancing. Obviously, it's a whole lot less than they were, a year and a half ago, or even a year ago, or even, in November, right? But where do you go to find the transactions? Take a step back, go through a kaleidoscope, and look, right, where you can get your deals from. And it may be, all right, well, I want to go to this person. Well, find out how you can refer business back and forth, right? My favorite one is a barber. I work hand in hand with a barber. Why? Because he's talking to somebody for 30 minutes. How many people does he see a day? 15, 20 people. And he's cutting their hair for 20 to 30 minutes, right? I used to be a 20 to 30 minute guy. Now I'm a 5-minute guy, but they're talking to and they talk to them about everything. Hey, what are you doing? Talk to my guy. It's a simple, easy way. And then you refer him clients, and that's how it works. I mean, outside the box stuff, be creative. I'm creative in financing. People need to be creative. It's not just black and white. It's not just realtors. It's where can you go to get deals? And the deals come from all places, right? Friends, family, divorce attorneys, right? Builders, CPAs. There's a lot of opportunity. And I'm not going to tell you all the people I get my business from, because I don't want to be broke. But there's opportunity in everyone you talk to. So if you have a conversation with someone, ask them what you do. Ask them what they do. How can I help you grow your business? That's the question every mortgage originator should be asking a potential referral partner. How can I help you grow your business? And make that connection for them, because they'll never forget you.
It's good advice.
And that is how you grow your business, from a transactional guy to a guy who goes and grows a team and gets business. That's how you go from a $10 million guy to a $20 million guy, a $20 million guy to a $40 million guy, constantly growing. And once you hit that $20 million to $30 million number, you have a great business model where it just starts growing, and you'll grow exponentially. Getting to that $10 million number, to the $20 million number, that's where it takes work. And it works because you have to work for your referral partners, getting them business. You give a CPA a client, they'll never forget you.
It's good advice. People remember when you help them.
Absolutely.
They really do.
Absolutely.
Brian, you can be my wingman anytime.
I appreciate you. I'm a good opener. It's the closing, that's what you have to work on.
This might be my favorite YouTube episode ever. We're gonna have to open and close this episode with like scenes from Top Gun back in '86.
We'll be happy if they'd like to sponsor.
Right,
Brian. Yeah. Speaking of opening and closing, how could people get a hold of you if they like to learn much more, or have you be their wingman?
Absolutely. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Message me on LinkedIn, Brian Krisman. Bayfirst National Bank. You can go to, hit me up on my bank, Bkrisman at bayfirstfinancial.com. My cell phone, 732-618-5907. And I, lend nationwide, so we can talk and do deals all over the place. Hawaii, Florida, if they're one and the same, upstate New York, wherever someone wants to be, I can finance a house for them. So let's just find a plan on how to get there.
That is casting a wide net.
That's it.
All right.
Your cousin in Kentucky. Let's talk about bourbon.
Now that's a whole nother podcast episode right there. If we start getting into bourbon,
which I can't drink. So I will take my club sodas. I can't tolerate that. I don't know how people do it. Whiskey and bourbon.
No,
don't know. Don't know how to do it.
That's my go-to on Better Business Brewing Live, which we do once a month here. Instead of the podcast, format, it's just a live conversation online, live streamed. I do like my bourbon for those.
Excellent.
Is it?
I'll have to connect on that.
Hemlock, is it?
What's that,
I'm
Doc?
sorry?
I said hemlock, is it? It is a deep dive, and you're supposed to say ice water. But you guys are just not up on your quotes, so.
Apparently not. Is this another Top Gun quote I'm just missing?
It was.
That's a B-side. On the B-side, for all the listeners, that was an album? Or
we're at the B-side.
We're on the B-side right now.
Brian, man, thanks for joining us, dude. Love to have a conversation with you, man.
Hey guys, thank you so very much, and look forward to seeing this air, and looking forward to furthering the conversation.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Doc, I gotta ask, man, what is your favorite quote from Top Gun? Because you seem to know like 40 or 50 different quotes from that movie. So what's your favorite?
Negative, Ghost Rider. Patterns full.
Oh, you said that earlier.
I did, but you just don't pay attention. So I figured I'd have to hit you up again.
I tell this to people all the time, 5 to 7 times is what it takes for somebody to actually hear something that you said. I don't know why you're so surprised when every time you say something once, I just don't pick up on it. It takes a couple times. And some people people like me, 5 to 7 is probably like 6 to 8 to 10. That's what I like to tell myself. Yes, squirrel. Okay, so we got to hear from Brian. Top takeaway, thoughts?
That's very interesting. All the ways that you can get a mortgage that probably aren't standard. So if you're not in that world, I know you both are in the financial world, so you're probably like, yeah, of course I can do that. But for some of us lay folk who aren't playing around mortgages, to know that there's that many options out there you don't really hear about, it's good to know that there's ways to invest.
Yeah, well, it's tough because even as somebody in the financial services world, even like somebody who knows that there's alternatives out there. When I went and was looking for a mortgage recently, I reached out to somebody, and it was not easy to have them look outside of the box for me. They just kept wanting to kind of default to the box, and maybe that was their business model. That's maybe where they do all their business, or it's where the terms are strongest per se. But a lot of times it does. Being a self-employed business owner requires you to go outside of the box and get creative. And there's a lot out there. There's 40-year mortgages. I mean, there's income statement mortgages. I mean, there's no doc's probably not going to find those right now, depending on the environment. But there's options out there that are not your typical qualified mortgages, your conventional mortgages that most people are used to using. So there are options out there, and it's good to have somebody like Brian who can, explore some of those options with you. And it's funny. He talked about casting a wide net. I think he undersold himself a little bit, because I think he can do that as a loan officer with his offerings to people, because I've talked to Brian and I know that he does have a lot of those alternative options out there, and he's really quite comfortable working with those. And I don't think a lot of loan officers are. So you talk about casting a wide net. I think finding a loan officer that's able to do that for you is probably a helpful thing when you're searching for a mortgage as a small business owner and self-employed. It's just the better way to do it.
Good to have options.
Yep, sure is. All right, man. I gotta ghost out of here. I think it's time. Is that a Top Gun quote, or did I just make one up? That's probably from the new movie, and I haven't even seen it. I'm gonna ghost on out of here.
I'm gonna give you that. Could have just when it's time to go buzz the tower.
Oh, the flyby.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm not good with quotes like that. You
instead maybe tell our audience about our free gift or something around that realm?
I imagine I could. Yeah. You know what? Thank you. I am good at that. So if you happen to be interested in a freebie, want to know some of the 6 top methods to make sure your business doesn't fail, we've got them for you. The fact is, most small business owners, guess what? It's tough, it's challenging, and you struggle. And there's some very specific reasons why that come up over and over again for most business owners. So if you happen to want to make sure that it's your competition failing and not you, you may just want to check out our free gift on the main webpage of JB and the Doctor at jbandthedoctor.com. It's right there on the front and center page. You can click on that link or use the link in the show notes below to get yourself access to that.
And of course, you can also find us at that very website at jbandthedoctor.com or on all social media at JB and the Doctor.
And don't forget, if you have not yet liked, subscribed, followed, shared, passed us on to your friends, your family, your loved ones, your hated ones, your enemies, your frenemies, any of the above, then yes, give us some love. We do this for you. We'd love to impact more people, and we'd love for more people to hear our message.
And if you need anything else, you got it. We got you.
That's it.
We're here.
Great balls of fire and some talcum powder.
You know it.
All right.
Crash and burn.
Crash and burn. Okay. All right. I'm JB. I'm out of here.
Peace out, yo.